problems actually. You know? And yeah, we were saying we have to be careful that we don't bring this ambitious, motivating force in our devotional life. You know? But there we have to have the Vaishnava motivating force. All I want to do is serve. And of course, it is a whole gradual transformation of the motivating force. Initially, we are all motivated by the false ego, you know, very natural. Like my bank in Germany, they have this slogan on their website: everybody has something that gets him going. So that's the false ego, you know, everybody's got something that gets them going. I am a mother, I'm a father, I'm this, so I have to act and so on. Yeah, so, and we were saying it's not all bad. False ego has also some little good thing in it, because at least it motivates us. It gets us out of tamaguna, you know, it gets us going. Yes. So, and then gradually, the first step is always to hear about it, that actually we should have this motivating force of simply wanting to serve no matter what. So gradually, we have to transform that motivating force. Yes. Like that. And we were also mentioning Grihastha life needs a sense of ownership, actually. My husband, my wife, my children, my house, my car, you know, that gets a grihastha responsible and dutiful. And about my thing, I'm always so much more attentive and, you know, maintaining things nicely. But Krishna's, who cares? But my car, you know, is usually better service than the temple car or something, you know. Even though it should be the other way around, you know. Yes, that Krishna's property, that is what we should mainly be caring for, and my thing doesn't matter so much. You know. But no, because the sense of ownership is strongly there, and that at least motivates us and teaches us to be responsible and uniform. You know. But then gradually we have to transform. So before we start with the actual topic for today, let me also share another little comment, which we didn't make yesterday, that the false ego has basically two main effects. The more common one is that it makes us very confident, if not to say overconfident. Yes, I'm great, I can do it all, I'm the center of the universe and I know best and. But then there is also another effect. When we become all insecure and mental and full of complexes, that's also the false ego, interestingly. You know? And it comes about because the false ego wants to enjoy this gratification of being really good, you know. But then maybe according to our capacities or karma, we can't be as good as the false ego would like us to be, right? And then, yeah, we can't live up to the false ego's demands and expectations, so then we get all insecure, mental, and full of complexes and all that. That also comes through the false ego. Interestingly, you know, we often are not so aware of that. We can take a little example. Let's imagine we would love to be a really good singer. You know? Everybody sings so nicely. I also want to sing so nicely. But maybe, you know, due to our karma capacities, our voice is not that fantastic. Right? Like my voice now. I used to sing quite nicely, but now, old age, you know, humbling So, so anyway, so if we can't sing as nicely as we would love to sing, so if we are on the false ego platform, then we will get all mental and insecure. And oh, everybody else sings so nicely, except me. And. But if we understand that actually Krishna accepts the, don't make it too fast, make it as slow as possible.
That's the slowest one.
Is it?
Opposite.
Otherwise I start sneezing.
I started at one, but it was the highest.
Yeah, so, but if we are not on the false ego platform, then we understand that actually Krishna accepts the service mood, the love and devotion with which we sing. He is not so impressed by the beautiful voice and all that. So, and then we can say to ourselves, well, I'm sorry, dear devotees, please tolerate my singing. I know it doesn't sound so fantastic, but I'm making this offering with devotion and love for Krishna, and I'll try to glorify the Lord. And then we will not be all mental about it. Well, I'm trying my best, and please accept it, please tolerate it. So then we will not get all worried about it, because, in my holy name retreats I've conducted, I have often had that experience that those persons who have good musical talents, then easily it gets to their heads and they become a little proud and they show off and all that, And so it's kind of singing is not even so pleasing to Krishna, and then sometimes somebody from a material point of view actually doesn't have such musical abilities, but their kirtan is just so much more sincere and humble because they realize my singing is not that fantastic, So it's not just the external thing, kirtan, since we're talking about it. It's not a musical performance or something, but it is all about connecting, calling out in love and devotion. So we have to learn to see a little deeper, and then we will not get all mental and insecure about it, about different things which we can't do as well as we wish we could or something, like that. So it's simply interesting that the false ego works both ways. So also these insecurities and complexes and mentalness and all that. It's also because of the false ego, because we try to be something which we are not. We try to be a fantastic singer, but sorry, we are not. And then false ego gives us some miseries there. So basically we can sum up the yesterday's session by saying, yes, the false ego is really our constant companion and troublemaker, always whispering some nonsense into our ears. Oh, you know better, you're so good, everybody should hear your idea, and so many anxieties and fears and conflicts. They all have their roots in the false ego, pushing us to do and say things which we shouldn't do and say. And as we mentioned, I think, already before, whenever we have things going around in our mind in circles, do we know that feeling? Or is it only me who knows that? When we have certain monologues, dialogues, topics, which go in circles and we can't just put them aside, we can't drop them, it goes around and around in circles. 100% false ego taking us for a ride. So it's good to identify it. Good to identify it. That's always the first step in trying to do anything about it. So now today's topic, let's see how far we get. I would like to introduce one very important rule of Vaishnava etiquette, which helps to dissolve the false ego. Because basically it's like this. There's these two components when it comes to dissolving the false ego. One is the chanting of the holy name, and we will not have time to discuss it, but just let me at least mention it. In our little holy name session, we did this exercise, mindfully turning to Krishna, feeling we call out to him, longing for the relationship, right? You remember whoever was there. So, and that establishes the connection, the relationship. And then there is an additional meditation there, that we turn to Krishna, longing for the relationship and longing to serve. Yeah. And that establishes us in dasya. Right? Very logical and simple. If we every day chant our japa for 2 or 2.5 hours, longing to serve, even if we can't do it the whole time, but just aspiring, just endeavoring. Krishna, all I want to do is serve. Please allow me to serve you and your devotees. So then sooner or later the day comes when we realize we are servants, nothing else. Very logical. So chanting, longing to serve, that scrubs the heart from all these other upadis, these designations that we are man, woman, Indian, German, American, husband, wife, this, that, whatnot, So that gets all washed away if we chant longing to serve. And only through that, if we chant and have all kinds of other thoughts and ideas and big plans, well, then it will not so easily relieve us from these designations. So that's one main part in dissolving the false ego, is chanting, longing to serve. But then there is also Vaishnava etiquette and culture. And we can say the whole Vaishnava etiquette and culture is designed to help us to become Trinada Pisanichina, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. If we were there already, then no need to have Vaishnava etiquette and culture, that we would spontaneously act in the right way. But because we are not there, that's why Vaishnava etiquette and culture is always our saving grace. Yeah. So these two things parallel. Chanting, longing to serve, Vaishnava etiquette and culture. That will gradually get us there. So now, because the false ego is so dear to us, so near and dear to us, that's why we like to protect and defend it whenever we can. Yes. So, and we probably have heard eating, sleeping, mating, defending. They are the animal propensities which we should subdue to the bare minimum. So eating, sleeping, mating, we talk quite a lot about that. But defending, we don't talk about that at all, actually. Yeah. And here, in connection to the false ego, we of course talk about verbal defense. Yes. That actually the Vaishnava etiquette is, and we have mentioned it before, in that very first morning session when we talked about forgiveness, right? I think I touched upon it there. That the Vaishnava etiquette is a devotee should never defend him or herself. We should not defend ourselves. But when somebody else is badly treated, then we should stand up, say something, defend that person. Right? Yes. And just to refresh our memory, I will read again this one purport where Prabhupada makes this statement. This is from 1:1848 in the Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada says, as such, devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. That's the Vaishnava etiquette. We should not defend ourselves, because if we defend ourselves, who do we defend? What do we defend? False ego. Exactly. Yes. Of course, even when we defend somebody else, we can also do this in the false ego mood, definitely. But usually when we defend ourselves, most of, 99% there is false ego. Yes. So, and as I mentioned previously, if everybody actually would follow that Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need even for us to defend ourselves, right? Because surely somebody else would step up and say, hey, actually it wasn't like this, and, you know. But unfortunately, usually we do exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. We are very good in defending ourselves practically every day. You know? Yeah. We are not even aware of it, but maybe after this session you will catch yourself in the future. Yeah, practically every day Krishna throws some little opportunities in our way to subdue the false ego. You know, where we should not defend, but as a rule, we always go for it immediately. Yeah. But when others are badly treated, then we don't want to get involved. Oh, this may damage my relationship with this person if I say something here. No, this is none of my business, and I look the other way. And after all, maybe the person involved is my friend, and how can I say something against my friend? And so then we rather be quiet, you know, but it should be the other way around. You know. And yeah, the most common defense mechanisms. What comes to your mind? What are the main defense mechanisms? How we defend.
The problem is in the other person.
Yeah, the problem is in the other person. The blaming the other people. This is the main thing. You know, blaming other people, blaming the external situation. You know, yeah, it's all the other person. In other words, we say, I am okay, nothing wrong with me, it's all the other person. I don't even think so many people are married here, right? Who is married? Couple. So it's such a common thing in married life, you know? Husband blames wife, wife blames husband, and nothing improves. And very often people separate, you know? Rather than thinking, what am I doing wrong? How can I become a better wife? How can I become a better husband? People just blame each other, and it all escalates, builds up, and boom, people separate, you know. But then we miss out on the whole purifying journey, because that's where the purification lies. You know, we always say family life is for purification. Well, that's where it lies, that we should not blame the other person, but we have to work on ourselves, you know. And it's not only in married life, it's in the ashram, it's in all dealings, you know. Yeah. That we tend to blame the other persons and the circumstances and situations, and rather than understanding other people act like a mirror to myself, and they reflect my way of doing and saying and acting, you know. Yeah, so we blame others. What else is there? Huh?
Using anger to defend ourselves.
Anger, yeah. Well, basically, you know, defense mechanism is also answering back, wanting to have the last word, you know? Yes. Proving that I know better, I'm right. Yes. Yeah, like that. No, it wasn't like that. Actually, it wasn't me. And you know, yes. Did you want to say something?
There's a justification.
Yeah, exactly. Finding all kinds of justifications and excuses, and these are all defense mechanisms for the false ego. You know? Yeah. And I mean, once we are a little bit more aware of these things, then we will realize it's happening almost every day. You know? Yeah. But, oh, actually it wasn't like that. Oh, it wasn't me. And this person. And yeah, it's because of that and so on. Yeah, I mean, another interesting thing is that the contaminated intelligence sometimes distorts things to such extent, you know? Yeah. Maybe some of you have been in that situation where you're mediating between two people who have a problem, some tension, some misunderstanding. And when you hear both sides, it can sometimes be so different that you're wondering, are they talking about the same incident? You know, you get completely different versions. Completely, right? You've ever had that experience? Yes. And then you may think, well, maybe one of them is lying or something. But no, as a rule, they're not lying. But what happens is that the contaminated intelligence twists things in such a way just to satisfy the false ego's demands that I'm right. And the person is convinced, this is how it happened. This is what took place. You know, the person is fully convinced. So that's how it works, my God. You know? So yeah, good to know these things. That's why I mentioned it already. There is no objective hearing, no objective experience. Everybody experiences the same situation completely differently. Because we experience and hear through these filters of material attachment, material desires, false ego, or some traumas in the childhood that trigger us or whatever. You know, but then another person who didn't have these traumas, they're not triggered at all. You know? So yeah, good to understand. You know? That's why in conflict situations we do have to hear everybody involved. We can't just make judgments just by hearing one side, you know. Also, when we give guidance in marriage problems or something, very often people just hear one side, you know. We hear the side of the wife, we hear the side of the husband, And then we immediately take that person's side. You know? Yeah. Should never be done, because most likely we hear a completely different version. Hare Krishna.
For you.
What do I want to do with them?
Sell them for you.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Just take them.
I leave tomorrow, I can't carry them.
Well, you had some still to distribute here. I figure if you need some, there's some extra you can distribute. And then just keep the Lakshmi. Is that okay?
My God,
Okay. Hare Krishna.
very kind of you. And what do we do if we can't distribute them? Because I almost fear everybody.
take that whatever's left. That's okay. I'll take them back. These are the ones I bought from you.
Yeah, so, because I leave at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
That's okay. You give them to me or by whatever
Okay.
you don't. If anyone doesn't want it.
Yeah, because I have the feeling most people have the books they want to get. But we'll see. You never know.
It is. Good one.
Yeah, Gopish Prabhu was editing the 40 book. And he's a big fan of it. He got a whole box of me last time, 40 or 50 books, and he's still got a few. He was giving all the directions, friends. So where were we? Yeah, we can't take, we can't pass a judgment without hearing all sides, because most likely, after hearing one side, when we hear the other side, it will be a completely different version there. And only if we actually hear all sides involved, then we can get a clear picture. Yeah, I encountered these things a lot because people come with their marriage issues, and then when I hear the ladies' side, well, I have to hear his side also. I have to talk to him too, not just to one person. And then, it adds a whole different perspective to the situation when we hear all sides involved. And that takes time, even in court cases in the material world. What takes the longest is to hear all the witnesses. It takes sometimes weeks and months. And only then, the judge can pass the judgment there on the situation. So we have to also do that. Yeah, so in any case, the defending propensity is a very strong one. I remember once we had this seminar in Mayapur, and we were just spending quite some time talking about this point of not defending. And then after that session, I spoke to a young devotee. I can't even remember what the issue was. Something we talked, and he immediately started defending. And I said, jokingly, smilingly, I just said it in a nice way. I said, don't defend. Remember, we just talked about it. Don't defend, don't defend. But he couldn't even hear it. He was going on and on and on and on. So that's how the false ego is pushing the tongue. And often we can't even control our speech. It's all blurting out. Like that. So that's the false ego, when we can't even bite our tongue and control it, it has to all come out. So, and very easily, as I mentioned yesterday, very easily we are so trapped in these false ego patterns of behaviors. We are so trapped in them because we've been carrying them along with us for so many lifetimes, and we are so much in that habit that unless we are really consciously working on it, we can't really get anywhere in our spiritual life. We will just slide back into these false ego patterns of behaviors, and we are stuck there. And if we don't hear about these things, we will not even be mindful of this, that we should not do this at all. Yeah, so it's a whole big thing. And I mean, the other day we also had this session on Prajalpa, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is listing in the row of different kinds of Prajalpa, he's listing the debating, which is also a complete ego thing. When people debate about something, usually people don't want to hear and understand the truth or something, but the mood of debate is that we want to get our point across, and we want to establish that we know better and we are right. That's the mood of debating. And that's why this debating is so contaminating. Yes, you may have that experience. Often it happens over the internet or also over social media, that somebody says something about ourselves or a situation, and then so many people hear it or read it, and then we think, well, I have to say something about this, otherwise everybody thinks it's true if I keep quiet, right? That's usually what we think. So then we try and make, our comments and put things right, and then again it gets all distorted, pulled out of context, made a weapon, boom, shooting back. And then again, what to do? I have to say something, otherwise everybody thinks it's true. And like that it goes on and on and on and on and on. What's happening? Yeah, so it goes on and on and on. There's no end to it. No end to it. So people, devotees should not engage in this. Just let it go. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Finished. Because every time, we answer and then they answer, it aggravates so much our heart, we get all agitated and the anger arises and so much, negativity builds up in the heart. That's exactly the effect of the false ego. False ego has this, contamination that gives this really agitated and ugly feeling in the heart. And then, then very difficult to change, right? When you're involved in such a debate and it's going back and forth, and then when you're trying to chant, the whole matter is going around in your head and you can't even concentrate, and so better not to engage in this. So this rule of not defending, pretty important. Actually, when I put the false ego book together, I'm sure you have all heard of Hare Prabhu, or maybe you have met him personally. So often I communicate with him and I verify all kinds of Prabhupada stories and so on. Because often we hear so many stories, Prabhupada said this and that, and I'm never so sure unless I really